Sure. We'll grab number 9 here. Okay, so for number 9, back in my original printing of this book, there was one error that I found, and I think it's been corrected. Under this lamed here that has the doubling dot, do you guys have a komets here? Okay, good. He used to have a vocal shiva there, okay? So there is a double komets pattern here. All right, so let's take a look at what we got. We have m, hu, la, lav. M, hu, la, lav. All right, so taking a look at this, if you know your new vocabulary words, the verbal root might jump out at you. If you don't know your new vocabulary words, then you kind of gonna have to imagine, okay, so are there any prefixes and suffixes that I can strip away to get to the verbal root that I don't know? So anybody see a verbal root that they recognize? Yeah. So if you know halal is one of your new verbs, then you might be able to go, okay, well, there's root 1, 2, and 3. That's great. And then I've just got this stuff on either side. The prefix mem with the verb is usually going to indicate what kind of verbal form? A participle. How many stems have participles that begin with a mem? With a mem prefix? Yeah, 5. Or, to put it another way, the answer is all of them except 2. You're like, is that right? I'm not a math person. Yeah, all of the stems have their participle with a mem prefix except 2. And which 2 are they? This is what you really have to know. The cal and nifal. That's right. Cal and nifal. In other words, the first 2 participles you ever learn don't have mems, and then the other 5, mem, 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 mem. Okay? So this is looking like a participle. And then the next thing you want to consider is what the vowel pointing under the mem might indicate, and what the vowel pointing inside the verbal root might indicate. So which one of the participles have vocal shiva under that mem? If you're looking at your principal parts, this is either PL or PUAL. And then when you look at the root 1 consonant, you get a clue as to which it is, right? Yeah, it's got to be PUAL. What vowel class would PLs have under their root 1 in the participle? Yeah, they'd have, well, in the participle would be an A class, right? In the perfect of the PL, it would be an I class under root 1, but everywhere else, the PL has an A class vowel. So this is a PUAL participle. Now, the last part, oh, by the way, if you see that long komets under root 2, what did you learn about PUAL participles and nifal participles and hofal participles? The theme vowel, the vowel with root 2, is always an irreducibly long komets. It never reduces. So other theme vowels will like to reduce to a vocal shiva when we add stuff to the end. Not this one. It's irreducibly long. Okay? Now, the last thing we have to determine is what is the gender number of the participle, and what's this other stuff that's hanging out on the back side? Well, that vav tells you which pronoun suffix we're looking at, doesn't it? Yeah, that's a 3ms pronoun. So whatever this is, it's a participle plus a 3ms pronominal suffix. Now, the yod and the komets here before that vav are telling you that it is a plural form. Okay? But the question is this masculine plural or feminine plural? If you remember, since we're dealing with plural forms, we're dealing with those, not the eHarmony pronouns, as I like to call them, but the community pronouns. When you have a community pronoun, there's really not any special marking for the masculine plural pronouns when you add those community pronouns. But for the feminine plural nouns, I'm usually going to see ot, and then I'm going to see the community pronouns. O tav, for example. O teha, and so forth. So do I have an ot over here before that, that av ending? The answer is no. So that's a pual participle masculine plural with a 3ms suffix. Okay? Now, parsing it's one thing. Translating it is entirely different, especially when you have absolutely no context here. So let's not translate the pronominal suffix. Let's just think about how to translate the participle by itself, okay? What does halal mean in the PL? It means to praise, right? To praise. So if I had a PL participle, how would you translate that? Praising. Praising. So a PL participle would be praising because whoever it describes is doing the action. But a pual participle always makes the PL passive if there is a PL form. So that means that whatever the pual participle is describing isn't doing it, but rather someone's doing the action to the one so modified by it. So what would be the way to translate that? Praised. Praised. Okay? So praising if it's a PL participle, praised if it's a pual participle. For example, the praising general would be the general who's praising people. Can't imagine that, but I guess that's possible, right? Then I could say the praised general. That would be a general whom someone else praises. That would be a pual participle. Okay? So this is praised, just the participle in terms of its meaning. If it's substantival use of the participle, then I'm going to want to, if I'm using this as a noun, add something like praised ones, right? A plural group of praised people, praised ones. And then if I add the 3ms pronoun to it, it would be his praised ones. Okay? His praised ones. Does that, yeah.
Is there another possible translation for this kind of participle use? Because I'm used to thinking of it like praised ones or something like that, but I feel like I could get caught in that.
Yeah. Well, okay, so clearly the use of this participle is substantival, right? The other two uses are attributive and predicate uses. Those will only occur those would occur, but not in situations where you'd have a pronominal suffix attached to them. Okay? Like you attach pronominal suffixes to nouns, right? His horse, his horses, his wives. Okay? So if I have a pronominal suffix attached to this, then this must be functioning as a noun. So his praised ones. Yes. Right. Well, see, because pual verbs are passive, not active, then you can't take the pronominal suffix as indicating the object of that participle, because passive participles don't take objects, right? They're not transitive. The action is directed towards whoever that participle is modifying. So, excuse me. Here we're probably talking about the saints of God, the holy ones. Those are the praised ones, and they belong to God. So they're His praised ones. Go ahead. Yeah, so, well, here, what we need to do is just remind ourselves of the pronominal suffixes. Give me just a second here, and I'll pull it up. So I've pulled up this handout that I gave you back when we looked at ROS 24. And what I just want to point out here is that all these pronominal suffixes that are added to the nouns, those were really ROS chapter 14. And you started learning these pronominal suffixes in ROS 13, where we were adding them to the lamed preposition. Okay? So we added pronominal suffixes to the prepositions in 13, and then we learned how to add them to the nouns in 14. Then over here, we're dealing with adding pronominal suffixes directly to verbs. And what we were discussing was perfect conjugation or imperfect conjugation. And the imperative is included in that. I probably ought to modify that. So that's ROS 24. Okay, but here's what I want you to see. So when my noun is plural versus singular, okay, I have these different sets of pronouns. The eHarmony pronouns are the pronouns that attach to single nouns because they want to date. The community pronouns attach to plural nouns because they want community. They're similar forms of the pronoun, but remember, when it's a plural noun, there's always a yod hiding in there before we actually get to the pronoun itself. Okay? And so when you look at that kametz vav yod, don't worry so much about this form compared to this one in terms of the a vowel over here, but do realize that yod is signaling to you that this, whatever this 3ms pronoun is attached to, it's masculine plural. It's plural. Okay, that's what the yod is telling you. If you don't have an ot before the kametz yod vav, then it's masculine plural. If you have the ot before that, then it's feminine plural. So his feminine plural things. So if you want, I'll just jot that down here. So his horses is susav, his mares is suso tav. Okay, that's the difference. They're both the same av, but this one's masculine plural, this one's feminine plural. You see that? Right, exactly. Yes. Yep. All right. Number 5. Curse you. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, that's fun. So, arotihu. Say that with me. Arotihu. So, I got 1, 2, 3. I have 4 consonants here, don't I? Which ones represent my verbal root? Aleph and Resh. And the T would be telling you what? That's a 1 CS. So who is a suffix, but it's not a personal ending, is it? Yeah. A personal ending C. So remember, when you have direct object pronominal suffixes, it's always the verbal core root, then the subject, then the direct object. Okay? I'm going in the right direction here, right? We're moving from right to left. So the verbal core, then the personal ending, then the direct object pronoun. So T marks the subject, who marks the direct object. Okay? So I'm left with the pirate cry. Arr! Now, how many consonants are actually left in the core over here? Just 2, right? So it's either ur, a hollow verb, or arar, a geminate verb. Now here's your question. Which one of these is in your verb list for this chapter? Yeah, RR. But there is a verb or in the Hebrew Bible, okay? And so this is one of the situations where by trial and error, you might have to look up both verbs, or the hollow verb with a middle vav, or RR, and then look at the forms. But, so or with a hollow vav is the noun light, and or is to be bright, okay? In the Hifil, to shine light on or to brighten.
There's a name that comes a lot in modern English,
Uri, yeah. Right. And so in the Aaronic benediction, this is used with, yep. Yep. So anyhow, not this verb though. This is curse, right? It's the opposite. That is funny though, but maybe that'll help you remember, right? Arar is to curse, and the other one, Ur, is in the blessing of Aaron. But anyhow, so what's going on here? This should have been a pathak and a doubling dot indicating two reshes. But resh is a guttural, and guts don't take no dagesh from anyone. So when it rejects the dagesh, the preceding short pathak does what? It lengthens compensatorily, and that's why we have a long A. Okay? So savav would have been saboth, like over here. Saboth. You see how that looks? This holem vav is a helping vowel. It has nothing to do with who did it or nothing like that. It is just marking a helping vowel to get me from the consonant resh to the consonantal ending T. All right? So the question then becomes, we'll go ahead and do our parsing here. So we know that this is a perfect 1CS plus, which pronoun is who? 3MS. Which form, which stem is this? Well, there's no prefixing here, is there? So cal is going to be the one. It certainly matches the cal of sabotum, right? So this is cal over here. What are the other stems that don't have any prefixing before root 1 in the perfect? The PL and the PUL too. Cal, PL, PUL have no prefixes in the perfect. But PL and PUL would have different vowel classes, wouldn't they? Remember, mind your P's and Poo's. P, I class under the root 1. Poo, U class under the root 1. This one is A class under the root 1. This is the perfect here. Okay, great. Now, other questions? Anybody else have one on the parsing? If not, let's look at translation work. Anybody have a translation question? So for number 12, yeah, go ahead and give us your rendering, and we'll see what we can do with you.
Okay, so, and to Seth also was born to him a son, and he called his name Enosh.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to go with Oz. At that time, theologically, I
Mm-hmm.
had trouble understanding what this meant, this last Oz, who, let's see, and they, well, we got it down here. People began to call on the name of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
They returned to the Lord, or
Yeah, or they began to worship.
yeah, began to worship.
Right. Let's go back here. So Ulasheth is and to Seth, right? Now Gamhu is this who going backwards to Seth, or is who the subject of the verb yulad? What do you think?
I think it's redundant, going back. Because and the son was born to Seth.
What do y'all think? Others? Is who the subject of yulad?
No, it can't be because it's a passive.
That's right. And the subject is actually Bain, right? A son was born. Okay, so the who then is actually performing its, I'm going to use a big word here, its anaphoric role, right? It's referring backwards to Seth. So it's, and to Seth, also him. So normally you want to take an independent pronoun and you want to conceive of it as a subject, right? But sometimes it's used anaphorically as a pronoun to refer to this. And here, Seth's role is as the object of the preposition lamed. But when it's independent, you can't use a 3ms pronoun suffix here. So you're just using the full pronoun. So and to Seth, also him. So, by the way, if you go to Genesis, you remember when Jacob steals Esau's blessing. No, I'm sorry. Yeah. It's Jacob and Esau. So Jacob steals Esau's blessing. And after Jacob has sneaked away, Esau comes in, brings the food to Isaac, and Isaac basically says, "Oh, oops, sorry, I gave your blessing away." And he says, "Oh, bless me, Father, me also." And he uses the verb bless me with the pronominal suffix, and then he says gam ani, and he uses the independent pronoun. In function, it's really a direct object pronoun, but since gam is preceding it, he uses the full independent pronoun. Okay, and that's what we have going on here. So it's and to Seth, also to him, that's how you're going to translate it, was born Bain, a son. A son was born. And he called his name Enosh. Now, we need to parse this so that we can figure out why the translation that Ross gives is appropriate. What form of the verb is huchal? What are we looking at here? What do you think the root is? Halal. Good. And halal is root 1 and 2 and 3 collapse into the lamed, but I can't put a doubling dot here because it's the final letter, and you can't stick doubling dots in final letters. Add a suffix to it, and I'll get to put my dagesh forte there. Okay? So what's this hey doing before root 1 chet on halal? Yeah, that's a hifil hofal sort of hey. How do you know whether it's hifil or hofal? The shurik here. That shurik is what vowel class? That's a U class. And if it's U class, it's got to be hofal, right? So there you go. So this is a hofal. And where does the hofal have the hey visible? It's in the perfect and in the, well, if it had an imperative, it would be there. And in the two infinitives, right? Infinitive construct and absolute. Okay. I think it's best to take this as a hifil perfect with no ending, so it's 3ms. And what does halal mean in the hifil? To begin. In the hofal, to be begun. Okay? So it's going to be translated as something like, he or it was begun. Now, what is the it? I would suggest that this whole phrase is the subject of this passive verb. To call on the name of Adonai was begun. Oz at that time. Okay? Now that sounds like quite laborious English, doesn't it? And that's why most of our English translations will transform it back into an active sort of translation and use an impersonal people. People began, or men began, to call upon the name of the Lord. So there you go. That is a hofal and therefore technically passive. All right. So that's fun. Any final questions? Okay, so real quickly, 11. Go ahead. Let's translate this. So Vayomer Elav.
Somebody else give a rendering.
Yeah, somebody else. So Vayomer Elav Elohim. What's that mean? And God said to him, Ki, that Hith Hananta. Okay, so is that, or could it be something else?
It could just be direct speech.
Okay, so it could be that, or it could be because, right? It could also be if, but okay. So let's look at this. Hith Hananta. What's that? Right. So if you show mercy or are gracious, I will. Okay, so I will show you mercy. Okay, so yeah, so we probably a conditional sentence here, right? And I will establish you. Or I will establish my covenant with you. So,
Yeah, I had trouble with the key.
Yeah, this,
I finally had it sided with conditional sentence.
yeah, this key is susceptible of a couple of different possibilities, but usually only one or two will make good sense in a particular context or sentence, right?